Hi everyone, welcome to this demo video about Form. It's a triple wave shaper, so it has three channels, which are identical. Each channel has one input and seven outputs. The input expects a linear signal, and as the front panel suggests, with the triangle wave as the input, we'll get a sine wave, anti-sine wave, exponential, logarithmic, trapezoid, anti-trapezoid, and asymmetric folding. We'll get to what's the asymmetric folding later in the video. Obviously, it can be used, Form can be used with a signal generator module like Ramp, Onde, or Animate. It will work best with the triangle, sawtooth, ramps or folded ramps from Ramp, or even the sine wave from Animate. However, it won't work, it won't do much with a square wave signal. So yeah, as long as the input signal has a bit of slope, it will be interesting using it with Form, else it won't do much. Form can also be used, since it has three channels, it can also be used on RGB as RGB processing, which will be more akin to gamma shaping, contrast shaping. So it could be used at the end of the patch before sortie to adjust the contrast, but also could be used on a RGB source coming from Entrée. Talking about Wave Shaper, you probably know about Courbe, which is a wave shaper which has been released earlier, which is a log expo shaper. So it can produce log and expo as well. With a bit of patching, it's possible to do a sine wave or anti-sine wave. Though the main difference is that Form has all the waveforms available at the same time, whereas Courbe can only produce one at once. And Courbe also have adjustment over the how exponential or how logarithmic the signal is, and this is something that could be patched with Form and Cadran, because Courbe is essentially a crossfader between exponential and logarithmic. And yeah, so let's get to a bit of patching to see how it looks. A good way to have a look at the shapes Form can produce is using it as a modulation, as a frequency modulation on Onde. To do so, I get the square wave from oscillator A from Onde into the red input of the encoder. Let's see how it looks by using the other oscillator B, set as vertically synced. And this is the triangle wave output, so we got the frequency of the first oscillator moving along a triangle. And if I plug the oscillator through Form first, and then take the sine wave output into Onde frequency modulation, you can see now we got the wiggly lines because the signal is now a sine wave. The sine wave is made by distorting the triangle wave at the input, and so the peaks of the triangle get rounded. This is the anti-sine, which is the opposite function. So it's the sine wave subtracted to the input signal, and as you can see, we keep the peaks of the triangle, but the slope in between is kind of a S-curve. This is exponential, so exponential is made by multiplying the signal, the input signal with itself, which is a kind of a square root function. And the logarithmic is made by subtracting the exponential to the input signal. We got the trapezoid, so here the trapezoid we got a gain of 2 on the triangle, and the top and bottom are clipped, so the peaks of the triangle are shaved off. The anti-trapezoid is the opposite function of the trapezoid, so we're subtracting the trapezoid from the input signal, and as you can see, the peaks of the triangle are preserved, but the transition in between is flat. And the last output is the asymmetric folding, and it's a rectification as the one you will find in Solaire or for solarization effects. However, with like standard full wave rectification, using a triangle wave as the input will give a triangle wave 2 times the frequency of the input signal at the outputs. Here, since there's a gain of 2 in the rectification circuit, the resulting waveform will be also twice the frequency, but the result will not be a triangle wave, but an asymmetric triangle wave, kind of. Like the slopes are more are not of the same. The slopes are some of the slopes are faster than the other, and so it gives this asymmetric kind of modulation. Now let's see how form can be used to shape two oscillator to produce a 2D pattern in which the shape will be affected by form. So I'll take the first oscillator into form first channel, the second oscillator into form second channel, then let's take the sine wave into one channel of combine. It's here it will be useful to sum the two signals together. And first let's have a look at the mix output from OND, which is the sum of the two triangle. And so we got a diamond shape because we're using triangle as the inputs. Now let's see how it looks with sine wave. So we got more rounded shapes, and let's see with the anti-sine wave, exponential, logarithmic, trapezoid, anti-trapezoid, and asymmetric folding. We could use the other channels of combine as to mix other waveforms together. So I'm taking the trapezoid now, and we'll send it to the green input. And let's get the anti-sine into the last channel of combine, and then output into the blue. And yeah, we can also mismatch the waveform to get something different. Could also have a look at the XOR output on combine, which folds the signal again. So yeah, ON, form and combine work really well together. Can create a lot of different patches, and will also affect the colors depending on how things are patched. We can add some modulation from animate into on the AM. We will also send 90 degrees triangle into the other AM input, and then switch the other oscillator to horizontal, and it gives this nice pattern. And yeah, I like to take a ramp to the FM, so we bend. So here it is for wave shaping signal from ON. Now we'll see how form can be used as a contrast processor rather than wave shaper. we've seen how form can be used to shape periodic waveforms. Now let's see how we can be used as a RGB processor. To do so, we'll do a quick patch using Onde into Combine. So we're combining the two signals from Onde, and then let's use stackables, so we can split the processed, the unprocessed video and the processed video. And so I'm sending it to Cadran, so we'll use it as a crossfader so we can see the difference between the two. And right now Cadran is only set as a pass-through, so we'll see how output without any processing. And I'll get the output of Combine into form as well. And we get the sine outputs from form into the second channel of Cadran, so we can fade between the two. And I'll do a split screen using a ramp from ramp into Seuil, so it generates a hard transition, and I'll plug it in here and we'll center the knobs on Cadran. And on the left is our original signal, and on the right it's the one going through the sine shaping. And as you can see, since the sine shaping has a gain to it, it kind of make the darks darker and the brights brighter, and the input, the original unprocessed signal, kind of look grayish now. The anti-sine is the opposite of the sine wave, so we'll get more signal around the gray, and as you can see, it's now the processed signal that looks less colorful. And exponential will put most of the signal around the darks, so we got a darker overall picture. The bright parts are thinner now. The logarithmic is the opposite, so we'll get a really bright output. The trapezoid also has gain and some clipping, so we'll get a more like a stronger contrast, and the bright and dark area are larger. And then the anti-trapezoid is the opposite. We got a lot of gray, and the dark and bright areas are really like kind of restrained now. And this is the folding, and yeah, this is the kind of effect we have with the Solaire, where the signal is folding itself, so we got more details appearing. Let's add a little bit of modulation to this patch, just so it's less boring. And maybe change the shape we're using, maybe this one. Yeah, it's only the first channel, right? We could also use maybe a combined shape from Combine. Let's see this. Modulation back. So now let's see how it looks on an external video source. So we're back with a similar setup, but this time instead of using Onde and Combine as a source, we're using Entrée to get an external video signal into the system. And on the left is the the input unprocessed signal, and on the right is the one going through form. Right now through the sine wave shaping. So once again we got a boost in contrast, and so the dark parts are darker and the bright parts are brighter. The anti-sine will give a similar kind of grayish picture. The exponential will make the overall picture quite darker. The logarithmic will make it brighter. The trapezoid makes it once again boost the contrast and clips the dark and bright parts. The anti-trapezoid will give the kind of similar grayish zones as the anti-sine, and this is the asymmetric folding, which looks a lot like the stuff you'll get with a Solaire with rectification. And let's see, we could patch some feedback into Seuil. Let's see to get something. And maybe we could use the Y outputs instead. Yes, we got the glitchy, feedbacky effect. It's interesting as the negative feedback gives this kind of wiggly lines, classic thing from glitch, and positive feedback gives this kind of clipped areas. And yeah, we could mix match the output to get something with different colors. So form can be also used as a colorizer kind of. So we've seen how it can be used on single waveform as to make 2D patterns, and now how it can be used on an external video signal as a contrast processor. And now let's get to the big end of the video patch. So let's do the big patch now. It will be pretty similar as the previous patch we did before. I get on into form, and then form into combine, sine wave from form into the first channel of combine, then output of combine into Seuil, and then from Seuil into cadran. Seuil will give the kind of keying wave shaping effect, while cadran will allow to fade to black. Let's get other wave shapes from form into combine, and then from combine to Seuil, Seuil to cadran, and then to the green. And let's get the trapezoid into combine, sorry, the trapezoid from form into combine, and then output of combine into Seuil, and Seuil to the blue output of the encoder. Alright. We can get one of the output of combine as a fade to black to give something a little darker. Let's see this one. Yeah, I like this one. And we can use animate on say to give some motion. And we can also get a shape from ramp as a modulation on the last channel of say. We can swap the signal coming from the wave shapes. This was cool. Nice. Maybe we can also use animate the frequency modulation here to give something different. So yeah, I think you know what you need to know about FOM, and I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next demo video.